upon a time in the early 70s, in the murky forests of the Pacific Northwest, there lived a little girl. Me, as a matter of fact. One of my earliest memories was laying on the lawn of the house at Pooh Corner Preschool on a rare, sunny Seattle morning in the still, chill sunshine of early spring. I remember contentedly picking tiny forget-me-nots and dainty English daisies from the mossy lawn. I remember being aware, as if it was the moment when my solipsistic infant brain made the switch to knowing I was part of the world, not the source of it. These things, the flowers, the grass, the sun, they all existed independent of my mind. The sun would rise, the flowers would grow, and these things did not depend on my observation to do so. They were not part of my world. I was a part of theirs. It was revelatory, and now, almost a half-century later, I can still smell the lawn, feel the chill, damp earth beneath me, and see the milky blue and white marbled sky. This is part of the draw of flowers. Their ephemeral beauty delights the senses and has been a source of fascination and inspiration for humanity since before we were actually human. We've used them to adorn ourselves, to brighten our homes, to celebrate, to flirt, and to even mourn. Possible evidence of Neanderthals being buried with blossoms of yarrow, cornflower, bachelor's button, ragwort, and hollyhock was found in Kurdistan in the early 60s. And to this day, flowers are available in most supermarkets and many gas stations as impulse purchases or gifts. And why not? Flowers are the fanfare of nature's own self-seduction, and roses in particular have come to represent the human aspect of this mating ritual. They have been a symbol of romantic love since the goddess Aphrodite pricked her finger on their thorns while mourning the death of her beloved Adonis. Looking back, the earliest version of this melody with similar lyrical imagery appears in an 18th century German song known today as Ringel Ringel Reihe. Ringel Ringel Reihe sind der Kinder Dreier, sitzen unterm Holderbusch, machen alle husch husch husch. Ringel Ringel Rosen, schöne Aprikosen, Bärchen blau, vergiss mein nicht, alle Kinder setzen sich. Although everything sounds scarier in German, especially when I speak it, the translation of these verses doesn't reveal any lingering morbidity or imagery of disease. It translates as, Ringle, ringle, row, we are three kids sitting under the elder bush. Everybody shouts, hush, hush, hush. Ringle, ringle, roses, lovely apricots, blue violets, forget-me-nots. All the children sit down. This sounds far more like an exuberant rite of spring than a darkly coded funeral dirge passed down by traumatized children for 600 years. Even the phrase, hush, 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 can be interpreted as a bit of wordplay, as the phrase could also be used to mean rush, rush, rush at that time. Fruit, flowers, children, dancing. Considering the fact that this version is historically and geographically the closest to both the Black Death and the Great Plague, one would expect that the symbolism would be closer to this supposed original meaning. But no sneezing, or ashes, no pockets filled with medicinal herbs. But then again, this is Germany, and the version we are discussing is in English. So what about the first English version? In 19th century America, we find a reference to a children's game named Ring o' Roses in print in an 1846 article in the Brooklyn Eagle, written by the not at all pretentiously named William B. Marsh IV. Marsh gushes, I have been considerably amused this evening with the sports of a group of children on the opposite side of the street, who have been making the sidewalk their playground, for want of a better. The party consists of about a dozen, with a proper admixture of bells and beaux. The tallest and apparently eldest I should judge to have seen is about 7 summers. She is evidently the center of attraction. Indeed, it is whispered that the object of this gathering is the celebration of her birthday. Per consequence, she has been elected mistress of ceremonies, which comprise, among other things, the celebrated Ring o' Roses. It was laughable to see the little yellow-haired, butter-chopped laddie take her out of the ring. There she stood, graceful as a young fawn, her hair parted from the forehead and flowing in ringlets about her neck, while with downcast eyes and compressed lips, she received the proffered kiss, although they formed a very agreeable contrast to the pair noticed above. Then he goes on to wax poetic about the tender young shoots of youth, blah blah blah. Honestly, it gets a little awkward by today's standards, but I digress. This version appears to be little more than a playground kissing game, the usual youthful play courtship rite. Like Spin the Bottle, Post Office, or 7 Minutes in Heaven, these games are innocent preparations for the advent of puberty. And still, we see no evidence of oozing pustules or creepy-beaked doctors. The rhyme pops up again in Anne S. Stevens' 1855 popular but mostly forgotten dime novel, The Old Homestead. The book is described as a bucolic slice of 19th century New England farm life. However, the poem itself appears at the beginning of a scene where children hospitalized during a typhus outbreak gather flowers to celebrate the 4th of July. This is the first time we associate the song with the idea of an epidemic, but the poem itself and the scene following it are nothing but a lovely ode to life and healing. A ring of roses, laps full of posies, awake, awake, now come and make a ring of roses. Isabel gathered up her apron and ran into the house. Up the stairs she went with a fairy footstep and glided into the wards. Feeling softly from one little cot to another, she left upon each pillow her pretty where the sick child was sure to see it the moment its languid eyes were unclosed. When her store was exhausted, she ran down for more. "Did any of them wake up? Did they see the flowers?" inquired Mary eagerly. "Some were awake. They hadn't slept all night, poor things. But the flowers made them smile," was the cheerful reply. "Come, fill my apron again, and give me those large ones with the white lilies for the mantelpieces. Won't the doctor be astonished when he goes up? They're better than medicine, I can tell him." Again, Isabel's apron was heaped full, and again she glided in all her bright young beauty through the sick wards. And when she came down, an earthen pitcher, crowded with great white lilies, honeysuckles, and sweetbriar, stood on the windows or mantelpieces of every room. There was not a pillow without its pretty garland, or a bouquet of buds, tied with some spray of fragrant shrub. She had made the atmosphere of those sick wards redolent with fragrance. This rather lovely and evocative passage does have a connection to disease, epidemic, and death, but still shows no indication of the verse being about the plague. Rather, the flowers here bring life and rebirth to counter the miasma of disease. They are visual representations of the healing power of plants and herbs as well as rejuvenation. They are seen as talismans that are better than medicine to the recovery of these children. So we've seen the song used to express the joys of spring, as a courtship dance, and as an invocation of nature's restorative and healing powers. The first time we see Ring Around the Rosie in print as we know it today wasn't until the publication of Kate Greenaway's Mother Goose or the Old Nursery Rhymes in 1881. Kate Greenaway was an influential British children's illustrator in the late 19th century who popularized the concept of the children's picture book. Her version goes, "Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies. Hush, 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 we're all tumbled down." This version persisted with various regional adaptations unquestioned until something changed after World War II. Suddenly, common knowledge dictated that the song described the rosy rash and sneezing fits that are absolutely not associated with the bubonic plague. Plague fills your lymph nodes with pus and kills you with septic shock. A rosy rash and the sniffles, it is not. In the end, the source which seems to be the most guilty of perpetuating this myth can be found in James Lacer's The Plague and the Fire in 1961. And The Plague and the Fire was about the Great Plague, and the Great Fire of London in 1666. Despite my best efforts, I wasn't able to find a copy of this book to check the actual excerpt where this is explained, nor could I get a copy of the bibliography to see if I could track down where he came up with this notion. In fact, as near as I can tell, the false evolution of the verse "hush, hush, hush" into mock sneezing sounds, into ashes, ashes, seems to be the only reason people are drawn to this conclusion. It's folk etymology at its most insidious, and it ignores the actual cultural evolution of the song, as well as begging us to believe that people somehow forgot what the song is about for almost 600 years before, oh yeah, that kid's song is totally about death. Most kids don't concoct playground songs about centuries-old pandemics, and adults typically don't write enduring ditties about disease and death for them to sing. So what is this song really about? Historically, we don't know, but it seems pretty likely it's literally about dancing in a circle around a rose bush with a pocket full of flowers. Last one to stop is the rose bush. Flowers have bright colors, delicate textures, and complex geometric shapes that appeal to the senses of children, and their seasonal appearance makes their arrival anticipated and welcome. Every version we see of this song builds upon this Arcadian ideal of springtime bliss. The air is filled with sunshine, birds are singing, baby animals are popping up everywhere. The selection of the rosebush, typically being a pre-adolescent female child, is not coincidental, as we see her representing the life potential in the buds and blooms emerging around us. Thanks to popular culture, when we hear terms like fertility rite, we tend to picture dark, erotically charged blood sacrifices to feral horned gods. In reality, this small, charmingly innocent game serves as a modern ritual to the true meaning of fertility. Fertility isn't just reproduction, it's creativity and personal growth. It is the childlike comfort of knowing spring will always come again, that engaging with the natural world in a playful way strengthens our appreciation for our place in its self-sustaining cycles. It is a time for jubilation, new loves, new growth, new babies, and fresh starts. Life and death happen, with or without our permission, and the only thing we can control is what happens between and the legacies we leave behind. And in the fearful times we are living in now, we have the opportunity to embrace growth and change. We are like seeds right now, curled up in our nests, waiting to burst forth into a future where we can all hold hands and dance around the roses again. I'm Miss Scarlett, and this has been Pagan Sunday School. Thank you for watching.